And just so I don't have to disrupt the flow of this video, which is going to be absolutely hype, let me just say from the beginning, today's video is sponsored by two organizations. The first is TOAmagic.com. Tales of Adventure is an awesome store, and Modern Horizons 3 is going to massively shake up the legacy metagame. You are going to need cards. If you want to get it from one retailer, instead of having 10,000 envelopes filtering into your house or your apartment over the next 2 weeks, consider checking them out. You will get free shipping on your order. And today's video is also sponsored by Moxfield.com. You know, that wonderful little thing that I'm using for all of my deck techs? All of my Modern Horizons 3 lists are available on my Moxfield account. And if you want to check out any of my deck lists, that is the place to go. And if you need to host any deck lists of your own, check them out. Hello, this is my generic intro for 4 videos this week. So if you've seen it once, go ahead and skip to the first deck tech. I got early access to Modern Horizons 3 cards through the MTGO Content Creator Program. Shout out to Torben and everyone at Daybreak Games for making this happen. So I have recorded an absolute ton of matches with Modern Horizons 3 stuff. What I chose to do was do a deck tech and then do 1 or maybe 2 rounds with a deck and then switch decks. So this week is going to be like deck tech, game, deck tech, game, deck tech, game, going back and forth. I have tried to organize these in a way where I am releasing these as a batch of 4 videos in a way that makes sense. I have occasionally posted these out of the order in which they were originally recorded. So if I refer to something weird that you haven't seen yet, no, I didn't. I hope you all enjoy. My brain was absolute mush as I sat down and recorded Modern Horizons 3 matches for 6 hours straight. Especially in one of the final rounds, I made some errors that were pretty big, but I hope you'll forgive me. And folks, I hope you enjoy. There's some crazy content coming this week. You are not going to want to miss any of it. Let's take a look at post-Modern Horizons 3 Merfolk first. Notoriously, I hate Merfolk as a creature type. I don't think they accomplish much. I'm a big hater. But I think Harbinger of the Seas is one of the most real cards from Modern Horizons 3. I think the immediate comparison that people are going to make is to Magus of the Moon. However, the blue pips in the casting cost of this card mean that you are not just going to want to power this out via Ancient Tomb like you often do with Magus of the Moon. So this means that this is usually going to be a fair turn 3 play. And so you need to put pressure on your opponent's resources to make this card good. You either need to slow them down with cards like Force of Will or Thorn of Amethyst so that you can make it to that turn 3 and slam your I win button, or you need to pressure your opponent with other very good targets for their removal so that when Harbinger of the Seas hits the battlefield, they will have temporarily exhausted their removal. So let's imagine that your opponent starts with 1 Swords of Plowshares or 1 Lightning Bolt, which I think is pretty reasonable for an opening hand in Legacy. You know, they very well might get rid of your Lord to prevent you from attacking for 4-ish damage on turn 3, and then boop, an I win button hits play. There are some other recent additions to this deck list that are worth talking about. Kitesail Larcenist is a neat one. First of all, it's a flyer in Merfolk, which is pretty rare. Not unprecedented, but pretty rare. And it also has a little bit of built-in protection with Ward 1. When it enters the battlefield, for each player, choose up to 1 other target artifact or creature that player controls. As long as you control Kitesail Larcenist, it is essentially a treasure token. So this is really good as sort of a pseudo removal spell for a problem card. But when you combine it with Thorn of Amethyst, if your opponent wants to cast their spell, they might need to actually sacrifice their treasure token to do so. In which case, if Kitesail Larcenist dies later on, your opponent does not get their thing back, which is kind of cool. The other Modern Horizons card we are trying here is Sink into Stupor, which returns target spell or non-land permanent an opponent controls to its owner's hand, while also being a land on the backside. We have seen these modal double-face cards be great with pitch cards like Force of Will, Solitude, Fury, all that sort of stuff. So it's not surprising that we want to try this out. Both sides of this are not particularly good. A land that you pay 3 life for, bad. A 3-mana counterbounce spell, a little overcosted. The ability to pitch to Force of Will, and be a land, and be a tempo-oriented spell, though, all 3 of those things in one card starts to look pretty attractive, so we'll kind of see how this Merfolk deck performs in practice. Alright, I actually got a first round in here versus Bryant Cook rather than Brian. Brian has to wait a little while. Bryant is probably playing a broken combo deck featuring one of the new combo strategies. I don't know which one exactly. This is a turn 2 Thorn of Amethyst. That is presumably fine here. I would prefer a Force of Will hand, but I think this is a beggars can't be choosers situation. Going to put back a Tide Shaper and keep the Aether Vial. We've got a fetch. I'm going to assume that this is going to be some sort of like Necro Dominance deck list or something like that. Harbinger is not what I am looking for right now. I will pay 3 life, put an Aether Vial into play, and call it a turn. Alright, we've got the blue-black vibes. I will potentially have the choice of whether or not I play out Thorn of Amethyst on my next turn, or whether or not I just Wasteland the Underground Sea. Wasteland always denies 1 mana. Thorn of Amethyst probably denies multiple mana, but can run into Force of Will or other counterspells that my opponent might be playing. Alright. No shuffle. Let's go for the Thorn. I think that's a higher upside play. Alright, there is the Force of Will that I was talking about, pitching Born Upon the Wind. Born Upon a Wind, which is a way to potentially win the game at the end step after drawing a bunch of cards with Necro Dominance. Here we go. Second Dark Ritual. Okay. It is going to be a Beseech the Mirror line. So after Gaia's Will, this is just going to be Dark Writ, Chrome Mox, Beseech. Storms 7 after both rituals, Storms 8 with Chrome Mox, 9 with Beseech, 10 with Tendrils. Can even squeeze in a Ponder, sure. Bonus Chrome Mox. And then there's the Beseech the Mirror again for the Tendrils. That'll do. Oh, okay. Those are small. I am interested in Null Rods. I am interested in Grafdigger's Cage. Surgical Extraction is potentially good enough. Let's make all these things larger. So I have like 8 cards I can bring in. Kitesail Larcenist is probably not particularly exciting here. I'll get rid of those. Aether Vial is kind of weird if I'm going to bring in a giant pile of Null Rods. Let's assume that I can go ahead and cut those. And assuming I place Surgicals, I will need to trim 1 other creature. This is very relevant versus Storm Triggers. Harbinger of the Seas is okay, not overly exciting. I'll just trim 1 Tide Shaper, though. Okay, we have Force of Will and 2 relevant pieces of hate. That's fine. It's a little awkward that I have double Otawara here, but we're going to keep this one. Leyline of Anticipation. Well, aren't you fancy? We're just going to do a land and pass the turn here. I wonder if those are just in the main deck. Just a land and pass, sure. So this is kind of a weird decision, because if I do this, I shut off my Force of Will and my Surgical Extraction. So I think I am going to go ahead and Null Rod first to shut off Artifact mana. A Chrome Mox in response. You've got it. Active Negation. Lotus Petal's fine. Lotus Petal's fine. We've got a fetch. Are we beseeching now? Or is it a Necro? That's 3 black. No, that's 4 black. That's Beseech. So I will go ahead and now Force of Will pitching a Harbinger in response. I don't think I need to immediately Surgical Beseech the Mirror or anything like that. My opponent is relatively low on resources. I might do it prior to playing my own Thorn if it looks like my mana is going to be awkward, which it looks like it is. So let's now take out the remaining copies of Beseech. Let's see what Bryant is cooking up over here. It is indeed multiple copies of Necro Dominance, sort of the balanced version of Necropotence. So there's some Chain of Vapors to bounce my stuff, some Echoing Truth to bounce my stuff, 3 Leyline of Anticipation it looks like, and a single copy of Tendrils to win the game it looks like. I think I'm going to keep Aether Vial in the sideboard here. I think the boarding plan is okay. Okay, so I have a turn 1 Merfolk, turn 2 Thorn, turn 3 Harbinger. That's okay. I'm a little afraid of just keeping this hand and dying. I think I am going to go ahead and keep, though. Like, it doesn't look like this deck is always just going to go off on turn 1. Alright, I have a second piece of Disruption. Seems fine to just put this on Merfolk now. And we've got a 1/1. So I have good plays for effectively the rest of the game, assuming that I do not just die immediately here. Second land drop. Alright, it is the Necro Dominance. So now Bryant is going to pay a bunch of life, and hopefully there's not enough mana here to just immediately Born Upon a Wind and win the game. So, unlike the original Necropotence, this trigger happens at end step. 7 cards, 7 life. There's now potentially a Force of Will to defend against this sort of stuff. Or potentially Chain of Vapor to just bounce whatever I play out of play. In consideration of Chain of Vapor, I probably play Thorn of Amethyst over Null Rod. Okay, so Bryant has discarded some cards, some mana has gone to exile here. I'm going to go ahead and just end up playing a post-combat Thorn of Amethyst and hoping that does some work here. Yeah. Alright, there is the Force of Will pitching a Leyline of Anticipation. Ooh, looks like there needs to be more refueling still. We'll see how much life is paid this time. And a quick note here, maximum... holy shit, maximum hand size is 5. So Bryant is going to try to win right now before I get another main phase. He is going to need a Born Upon the Wind in order to do that. That is not Born Upon the Wind. So now it is going to need to be Born Upon a Wind into Artifact mana, or maybe a Dark Ritual into Born Upon a Wind. Set it up. Will this tiny little Tide Shaper just end up getting there? Chain of Vapor targeting Necro Dominance. Sacking a land to take my Tide Shaper out of play. I will not sacrifice a land. Bryant is alive at 1. This game is crazy. So I am going to attempt a Null Rod here to shut off the artifact mana, and then play Tide Shaper. There is a Force of Negation pitching a Force of Will, which is no longer a live card. I'm going to drop a Tide Shaper. That is an uncounterable lethal threat. Bryant has 5 cards in hand plus a draw step to assemble a win. So here we go. We have enough artifact mana for a Beseech. Dark Ritual. I assume Beseech already leads to a high enough storm count, considering that the Lotus Petals can be sacked and replayed. It is Echoing Truth to build Storm. So that'll be 6 Storm after those Lotus Petals are replayed. Ponder. Are the Mighty Merfolk just getting there? Mighty Merfolk are getting there. Oh, excuse me. GG's. Glaring Fleshraker is one of the cards that I'm more excited about from this set. I just think it has so much potential in any sort of artifact shell. And I think one of the low-hanging fruits here is some sort of Mystic Forge, the One Ring deck that can repeatedly sort of refuel and continue to play things either off the top of the deck or from hand. I grabbed this deck list from Twitter. I think Nossman was the handle. And the thing that I'm most intrigued about in this deck list is Kozilek's command. This is, another of the command cycles. So you get to pick 2 of these. The most important mode here is the top mode. Target player creates X01 colorless Eldrazi spawn creature tokens. So this is kind of a mana in, mana out situation. But more importantly, it's your fireball with Glaring Fleshraker. So if you have Glaring Fleshraker in play, let's say that you do this for 5, you get 5 damage to your opponent for 7 mana. Now, that's not the most exciting, but you are doing this while wiping out their graveyard, getting rid of their biggest threat, or selecting very specifically for a card you need. I think this is not good enough, but I am prepared to be wrong here. This has the potential to do some very silly things with the amount of mana that this deck is going to be capable of producing. We have a bunch of Soul Lands and then Urza's Workshop alongside Planar Nexus, which again is an Urza's card type. To start off, I think I am going to Goldfish this one a bit and just kind of see how it feels, and then we may or may not get into some gameplay depending on how much time I have for recording later. All right, let's do a little bit of Goldfishing with our Mystic Forge deck here. I want to see how this plays out. So we go 3 mana, and then we'll have 4 mana to go ahead and just immediately play out Mystic Forge. There's a Kozilek's command. I'm not excited about that card immediately. I am excited about that one. So we'll go ahead and draw and probably just immediately play the Fleshraker here. And we'll start playing things. Note that we are in a single player Goldfish situation here. So we would have dealt 1 damage with the Fleshraker. Let's untap Grim Monolith, do a Fleshraker, make more Eldrazi spawns. And this would be dealing damage to our opponent. So for this entering, we get 1. For this token entering, we'd get another. And now each time we do a colorless spell, we are going to pop off further and further. So let's untap, play this Paradox Engine, and then honestly, presumably just win the game instantly. So we untap this. We go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Tap this for some mana. We Paradox Engine, which we are now getting a very large number of these triggers, and I can cash these in for mana should that become necessary. Let's just start untapping our stuff. This is very silly. So each one of these would now be representing damage, and now I can just kind of like do my thing. I can repeatedly untap stuff with Mystic Forge should I need to do so. Oh, sorry. This I just have a Mox Opal on the stack still. All right, I should have floated another mana. I don't think it matters, right? So I cast a Lava Spur Boots. I deal a bunch more damage. I untap my stuff. I can get rid of this Urza Saga off the top of my library. Looks like there's another one here. So I can just make more mana. Let's untap the Mystic Forge here. Just take another card off the top to try to continue, and then like each one of these spells is now just 2 points of direct damage to my opponent's face, and I can just start casting these as well. Yeah, no, this is absolutely crazy. Okay, so we've got another opening 7 here with the same deck. Don't exactly immediately have Metalcraft. I'm going to keep this assuming that I draw some artifact and that this will end up being okay. Otherwise, I just like play Fleshraker and things will probably still just work themselves out. I play a Lotus Petal. That lets me play a Fleshraker. I can now cast a Mox Opal to go and get an Eldrazi spawn token. So that's 1 immediate point of damage. All right. So this is not currently live. Oh, so this is kind of a neat interaction, right? So I can just go and sack this creature to make an Urza Saga Construct token, which then immediately triggers the Fleshraker. Then I can cast a new Mox Opal to trigger it again. I'll just keep one of these, and then this gives me the mana to continue to make Urza Saga Construct tokens. I think I've made 3 tokens so far, plus 2 damage. So we are well on our way to doing something a little more broken. So we're about to do our search, so I can sack a creature, make my construct token, ping 1, probably just get something like a Lava Spur Boots here. At this point, the Metalcraft is on for Mox Opal. I have effectively 2 mana to work with if I am equipping Lava Spur Boots. So let's just assume that I would do this. So I would hit for 5, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, that's probably good enough to just result in a kill. Why don't we take a look at one more hand with this deck? Sure, why don't we keep something that looks a little bit less impressive and just kind of see where it goes. So we'll start on Urza's Workshop Manifold Key. We drew a Karn, which is kind of wild. So now we can just do something like Urza Saga, 2 mana, Grim Monolith, 3 mana, untap Grim Monolith, 3 mana, Voltaic Key, untap this, 6 mana. What does my sideboard look like for Karn? Could Karn and immediately do something that is 2 or 3 mana? And this is very situational without like actually seeing what the opponent is doing on the other side of the battlefield. Let's Grim Monolith, Karn, and just for kind of the sake of doing it, let's say my opponent is a highly aggressive creature deck, and I just need to kind of empty my hand and put an Ensnaring Bridge into play so my Planeswalker does not die. Alright, cool. So now let's kind of see what happens from here. The Urza's Workshop on its own taps for 2 mana, so I can just use that to make a giant construct token. That's all fine and good. And then I can play an Inventor's Fair, untap a Grim Monolith, and then kind of figure out what I need to do from there with Karn. We could get the One Ring, start drawing through my deck. There's some tension with Ensnaring Bridge, but this deck looks to be powerful. Alright, we Goldfished the Turbo Forge deck. Let's see it in action. I'm a little vulnerable to a Wasteland here. I think I am just going to keep the hand, though. Alright. I'm going to pretend like I don't know what Brian is playing when making mulligan decisions here. So let's floop a key into play. Key resolves. I don't need to play Mox Opal yet, unless discard gets involved, in which case I kind of want this in play. Alright, cool. This is not online yet, so we'll call that a turn. And then I can start repeatedly playing Urza lands, like Urza's Workshop, Urza Saga, are all Urza lands, so is Planar Nexus. And my Urza's Workshops can actually end up producing a decent amount of mana. No threat here. Saga? Feels like Saga. Metalcraft is not on. This turns on Metalcraft. And this means that this does tap for 2 mana. 2 mana, 3 mana doesn't do me any good right now, though. I have a pile of Karns. But I can cast Karn next turn while also making Urza Saga tokens. So that's the good news. Bowmasters is not that big of a deal for me with this current hand. Although, let's keep in mind that there is a One Ring in my sideboard that I very much will be thinking about. Alright, I take some damage. And it is Exsanguinator Cavalry. That's fine. Opal's okay. We have Workshop. So this is 3 mana, 6 mana, Karn. That's good enough for a Force of Will. We'll do another one next turn. I will be just making this Urza Saga token at sorcery speed. It's still a 4/4. Good enough for now. The Exsanguinator Cavalry can still hit on in. That Wasteland is a great draw. It is another Cavalry, meaning that the Exsanguinator Cavalry scales up quite a bit. I can't block it due to Menace. There's some blood tokens in play. I still don't think we've seen any Modern Horizons 3 cards from my opponent. That feels good. Totally happy with that draw. So 3, 6. Let's Karn. Cool. I'll Karn minus and tutor. Yes. The One Ring is a little weird with Bowmasters in play. Bridge is a little weird since I do intend on beating my opponent down. But I think I am interested in Bridge. I am going to go ahead and play this. I'll just make a mana and go down a card in my hand so that this Exsanguinator Cavalry cannot attack. Keep the untapped Opal and call it a turn. So now I have a creature that can defend and protect Karn, and then we can work towards like Karn, Mycosynth, Lattice in the not too distant future. I assume that there's not very many outs to this whole ensnaring bridge thing that's going on. Sheoldred's Edict. Hell yeah. We are playing Magic still. Alright. My Urza's Workshops are absolutely popping off. I'll just play a Planar Nexus and pass. I can't attack with my constructs right now. That also means that my opponent can't attack, and that's the more important thing here. Brian can loot through with those couple of blood tokens and has cantrips, but I imagine there's like a Brazen Borrower as an out to Ensnaring Bridge in game 1. Sure. End of turn, my Urza's Workshops are making 4 casually, as they do. And there's another Urza Saga. So I am not getting through for damage due to my own Ensnaring Bridge right now, but boy, am I ready for when my bridge is gone. I think I like the idea of shutting off Brian's counterspells, so let's grab Vexing Bauble and go ahead and put an Urza Saga into play. Now at any point I can crack my Vexing Bauble if I need to play my own things that don't require mana. Oh shit, there's Necro Dominance in this deck. So Brian does not have draw steps anymore. Now my read on Psychic Frog was wrong. That is not the card Brian is messing with. So Brian can just like draw 7 or some shit here. Yeah, it is a draw 7. Now 5 is the maximum hand size here. So I imagine that we will see some number of like Force of Will type cards being discarded here that are just not going to be good. Dark Ritual explains why Exsanguinator Cavalry was in the deck. Alright, what other stuff hit Exile? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so I'll continue to play lands. And again, Brian does not get a traditional draw step. Wasteland for my Urza Saga is perfectly fine, although I will make another token on the way out. So I'm just looking for like a Karn or a Mystic Forge, or if the Eldrazi is in this deck. Yeah, the Eldrazi is in this deck, like that would be another great thing to just draw. Delver's fine. And I would like to not draw a land so that I can fully get Hellbent and never have to worry about being attacked by 1/1 creatures again. We'll see if Brian goes deeper with Necro. 2 deeper. Going back up to 5 cards. That is the One Ring. That's a weird one to draw. Like, I'll cast it, but it seems like drawing cards with the One Ring is a way that I could actually lose the game. So I think I am not going to draw cards with it. Like, I could just play this as, like, I untap this a bunch of times, like, in this exact turn cycle. I'm not super excited about that, though. Ooh. Ah, sure, no, that makes sense. That's another good way to use Dark Ritual. And we're cracking Delta. Get 1 more land out of deck. Fatal Push a token, you bet. Necro Dominance happens. Brian draws 1. Yeah, we're just not going to take any damage to the One Ring. Oh, I have a lot of mana. And this spell is just going to resolve as well. So let's cast this. Let's exile a creature. I'll get rid of the Bowmasters. And then exile up to my opponent's entire graveyard. You. Yeah. Done. Alright. Goodbye Bowmasters, goodbye Graveyard. We'll continue to play conservatively. It does not feel like I can very easily lose this game. It is a new cavalry. It is a Delver. My opponent has very few cards to work with for the remainder of this game. Down to 5. Sure. Yep. I am perfectly fine just making a land drop and passing. Alright, the Delvers are flipping to a Dark Ritual. That's just a land drop. Necrodominance once again. 2 cards. And a Dark Ritual is discarded. Mox Opal. Cast it. Oh no, it's countered. That is a Petty Theft on Ensnaring Bridge. There needs to be like a follow-up Dress Down as well. That's fine. So these have Menace. So I need to go bam, bam, bam. 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Not lethal. There are going to be a lot of Exsanguinator Cavalry triggers. I will just always yield to those. Oh, I guess the Exsanguinator Cavalries now give Brian more life to deal with. But the Vexing Bauble just means that my Ensnaring Bridge is resolving. So there now has to be like a discard spell or something. Sure. Necro Trigger. Just a card. So I can now attack with these constructs. These constructs are each 8/8s. It seems safe for me to draw a card. Grim Monolith, sure. So let's add a bunch of mana, play Grim Monolith, do some like tapping and untapping nonsense. So I will cast... I could draw more cards with the One Ring, but there are some things that could attack. I would like to kill Brian this turn. Maybe I don't need to kill him though. Maybe just doing this is just good enough. Keep the One Ring with 0 counters. Gain protection from everything. These are 9/9s. So it's block, block, take 9, be nearly dead, and then resolve a bridge. I have protection from everything, so it's very hard for something to go wrong here. Brian's at 3 when that's all said and done. And then we'll Urza's Workshop, replay Ensnaring Bridge. Now I'll untap one of these constructs for giggles. Pass the turn. And we're going to see some looting with these blood tokens. And Brian does not have very much life. Goes down to 1. There's a few more lootings left. Not losing life to my own copy of the One Ring here. Ooh, Orcish Bowmasters. Sure. Yeah, I guess I can lose to 2 Bowmasters. Yep. Ah, shit, I lost to 2 Bowmasters. Can't draw cards in response. What does this do? Like, I could draw one of these, make a bunch of spawns, that doesn't do anything. I could remove a Bowmaster, that doesn't do anything. There's lethal coming at me. Damn. Alright. Maybe I win that one if I get more aggressive with my own One Ring. It felt like I was pretty safe, but that was a neat game. I just never drew a Haymaker of any kind. I guess I could, like, have Scryed with this instead of wiping out his graveyard. Okay. I like Dismembers against what's going on over there. That's probably about all I will do. Commands seem kind of overcosted here for what they do. They're kind of nice for removing Bowmasters. It is also Fireball if I have Glaring Fleshraker. Basalt Monolith is not exactly the best. It's nice with the keys. Maybe we do like bam, bam. I don't know. Let's keep the second Basalt Monolith. Alright. Turn 1, Workshop, Boots. Turn 2, Urza Saga, Lotus Petal, Fleshraker. Hands a keep. So, yeah. Yeah. I have not seen discard yet. I don't know that I am going to play anything else out immediately. No Wasteland, that's great for me. Okay, so play Urza Saga, that's necessary. And now, do I want to give up Lotus Petal? I don't think I want to give up Lotus Petal. I think I am going to give up a little bit of value with this card to not use Lotus Petal. Oh, right, shit, I have Metalcraft. I fucking forgot about that. Or we'll say that we're playing around days. I can now cast Voltaic Key after this. Alright, so cast Voltaic Key. Get an immediate damage out of this card. Now, I can equip with my little booties. to immediately come in for 2, and more importantly, give this thing ward to potentially knock my opponent's removal off of curve. Wasteland on Urza Saga is very good. It not only stops my primary method of currently dealing damage, but it also reduces the amount of mana that Urza's Workshop will be making. And we've got a Delver. Sure. Dismember. Absolutely don't mind that. I think Mystic Forge comes a little bit later. Opponent's at 13. I think I'm just going to do this now. Just go ahead and make my token. Ping my opponent for 1. They go to 12. I think I am going to immediately dismember and play around days. Fantastic. I could have done this turn in a way where I also attack with a Construct token, but I think protecting this card matters a lot. The Construct tokens can just randomly die to a dress down next turn, and I would like to not have to use mana to move this around. Alright, sure. So, yeah. Make a friend. We have a dress down. Sure. Oh, and something else. Oh, am I going to eat a removal spell while I don't have ward? Oh, no. Okay, that would have been super cute. Alright, so now we do the Urza Saga search thing. I probably just get Vexing Bauble. That will counter my Lotus Petal. I don't think that's that big of a deal. But I think shutting off counterspells for the entire rest of this game is quite good. I have 3 mana showing towards this Mystic Forge. I'll draw a land at some point. This card is going to be obnoxious in Legacy. That was a very fast brainstorm. Brian's at 7 life already. Cavalry helps. There is a Basalt Monolith. Let's add 1 for each Urza land I control, shall we? So 1, 2... Sacrifice this creature. 3. Basalt Monolith. Let's always yield to our Fleshraker. Deal 1 to my opponent. So we have 3 mana. Untap. 5 mana. Mystic Forge. Make a critter. Deal 1. Ooh, that's a Karn. 1, 2, 3. This is counterable. I'm going to try to do better than Karn. I want to keep going this turn if possible. Negative. I'm going to cast this for 1 point of damage. Put my opponent to 4. Alright, so I know Paradox Engine is coming, and I can cast it. I do not want to endanger the Fleshraker in combat and trade with Exsanguinator Cavalry. I'll just go ahead and pass the turn. Note that I do have the option to stop Brian from gaining life by blocking with 2 Eldrazi spawn tokens and then sacrificing them for mana. What the fuck is this, Brian? Destroy each non-land permanent with mana value equal to the number of oil counters on it. Okay, got it. So this is weird Ratchet Bomb. Okay. Just junking immediately for 0. That gets rid of these 3 tokens and the Mox Opals. So let's sacrifice for 1, 2, 3. And then we will untap Basalt Monolith to just have more mana on my own turn. And I lose Mox Opal. Got a Brainstorm now. I'll lose my land. What is happening? It's a black pitch spell? Necrodominance just entered the exile zone. A March of Wretched Sorrow with ward. Yeah, you got it. So then I'll take 2 damage from this. And I think I am still very much interested in Paradox Engine. I think I will just pop off, assuming that I have that. So let's take Planar Nexus off the top of my library. Another Mystic Forge. Okay. So let's go 3, untap Basalt Monolith. 4, 5, Paradox Engine into play. I'll set a stop in my upkeep to take that out of play. And I probably effectively win the game next turn. We'll see. Oh, I actually could get Wastelanded and then not have initial mana to activate Voltaic Key to get myself going. Ooh, maybe I should not have taken a Planar. What is it? Whatever this card is. Planar Nexus off the top of my library. Ooh, that might have been a mistake. That might be a costly one, actually. This match has been one of the first absolute slogs. Most of the Modern Horizons games have been slaughters in one direction or another relatively quickly, but this game has been using the clock. The Wasteland was tapped. That's good for me. There could be a Bowmaster available. Couple blood tokens. All right, upkeep, I'm going to get rid of this Mystic Forge. That's worth a life for me. Saga's great. That's not great, though. Like, I need to start casting spells to do the whole Paradox Engine thing. So, play Urza's Saga. Activate this for 2 mana. Untap Mystic Forge. Mystic Forge, pay a life. Okay, cool. There is a Manifold Key. So now, when I cast a spell, I'm going to untap all of my non-land permanents, including the Mystic Forge itself. So, let's do some stuff. We are in the danger zone. We're maybe out of the danger zone. So let's untap Basalt Monolith a couple of times. Yeah. So I will go ahead and cast Karn, which lets me untap all of my stuff here. So now I can Ensnaring Bridge. Do I have any big scary thing that just answers everything? What does this do again? Sure. All right, so let's minus. Yes, we'll just put up... I just put up the 1 ring. I guess my Karn could die. All right, I guess it's bridge. Let's Mystic Forge this land away. Okay. Yeah, I'll just untap this monolith. I don't really want to draw that. Go just a touch further here. Ooh, the 1 ring. Yeah, cool. So now I will Ensnaring Bridge. I'll untap all of this stuff, and then I'll also get protection from everything as an additional layer. 1 ring off the top. All right, so I also have protection from everything. I have Ensnaring Bridge up. I have a Mycosynth Lattice lock the following turn. There's an Orcish Bowmasters. Got it. I'm not drawing additional cards, but I think I am happy enough with this. I've got protection from everything. My opponent's creatures can't attack. And I have Mycosynth Lattice lockout next turn. Yeah, sure. All right. So draw Urza's Workshop. Play Urza's Workshop. Let's see if there's another Bowmasters to kill Karn. Yes. Lattice. I will make a bunch of mana. Yeah, okay, that's good enough. We are both in danger of timing out, potentially. All right, I don't have the ability to cast spells in this hand. We're going to mulligan that very quickly. I assume that this is a keep. So we go Inventor's Fair. I don't have the time to think about this in the way that I need to. Let's get rid of Basalt Monolith. All right. Are we getting Delvered? We are getting Pondered. Okay. I don't mind a key. He makes my next turn much better. I'm going to remove this upkeep stop on my turn. I don't think I'm quite low enough on time that I need to remove this one on Brian's. You know what? I should just do it. And then forget to put it back before the next game. I would love more lands. Karn is not lands. Let's play an Urza Saga, and I think just pass the turn. Might need to use Lotus Petal next turn to play Karn, although maybe I just try to set this up and go for the upside of that working. I could see it. Let's go for it. Force of Will. Another Wasteland is probably game over. I can maybe get myself out of this, but it is very bad. I have no plan now. Ancient Tomb is a great draw. I have double 4-drops in hand. A fair Necro Dominance at this point would be very powerful. I am not casting spells. Ooh, Bowmasters would be good. Just get literally any pressure in while I am not capable of casting spells. Sure. It's Exsanguinator Cavalry. I might just get overrun. Okay, Grim Monolith is absolute gas. So that gives me 3 mana. Just immediately untap Grim Monolith. And what do I cast? I think Paradox Engine. And then just try to have a stronger turn next turn. Like Mystic Forge, Paradox Engine is great. Karn the Great Creator, obviously, very good for ensnaring bridge purposes here. There's Necrodominance, so my opponent will probably just pay 5, go up to 7. Or, well, I guess, yeah, they might go deeper to just try to get a Force of Will to stop whatever happens next. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. 1 Force of Will has already been used. All right. There is a Fleshraker. Love that for me. So let's untap the Monolith. Do this. Play the Fleshraker as the first spell. My opponent is at 9, so this is legitimately scary. Then I'll make some mana. Cast a Mystic Forge. Force of Negation on Mystic Forge. I still get to untap all my stuff. Still get the 1 damage here. Alright, so we'll make mana again. I'll Karn. Make more mana. So I have 10, technically 12, 13, 14 mana to work with. Do I have a Walking Ballista? I do not have a Walking Ballista. I could Mystic Forge and try to kill my opponent this turn. I think I'll just bridge. Like, I don't have to survive for very long. So then I'll just pass the turn. Brian's creatures can't attack. I have Mycosynth Lattice on my next turn. There's the Necrodominance trigger. Going to 2. So if I can cast 2 spells, that's it. Game over. Brian is discarding. Well, there's a first spell. Cast a Mox Opal. First trigger happens, putting Brian to 1. I missed a mana there, I suppose. So I'll now Karn minus. And this final spell, in theory, kills Brian. Let's Lattice. So we need to see like a removal spell for this and a removal spell for Karn at the same time. All right, there's the one for Karn. So there's the last point of damage. That'll do. What a fucking slog. GG's. Okay, this next one is one that I think is still a little bit loose around the edges, but it is going to showcase a lot of new cards. We'll probably tune this one up before I play a real league with it. Frogmyr Enforcer is a new affinity creature that has prototype. So we can do this as a 4 mana card or a 7 mana card, and either way it still has affinity for artifacts. So this is our Frogmite in the early game, although it does require red mana, and later on in the game this is another Sojourner's Companion. And this deck is seeking to kind of grind players out. It is going to be playing the Up the Beanstalks and Simulacrum synthesizers that you are maybe already familiar with from normal Legacy play, alongside 2 other new cards. Kozilek's Unsealing. Let's focus on the bottom part here. Whenever you cast a creature spell with mana value 7 or greater, draw 3 cards. So these Frogmyr Enforcers, Sojourner's Companions, and Thought Monitors that will be free, or maybe very close to free, are going to result in us getting 3 cards, meaning that a Thought Monitor can draw 5 cards. And that is kind of crazy. And in addition to this, whenever you cast a creature spell with mana value 4, 5, or 6, so say we cast the Frogmyr Enforcer for its prototype cost, I think that triggers this first mode rather than the second one. I'd have to look at some prototype rules, but I'm not going to take the time to do that now. Anyway, if you cast a spell with mana value 4, 5, or 6, you get 2 0/1 colorless Eldrazi spawn creature tokens that you can sacrifice for mana to fuel into these larger cards. And interestingly, we also have Ugin's Binding. The first time you cast this spell, it is not very exciting. You just bounce a permanent you don't control to its owner's hand. But when you cast a colorless spell with mana value 7 or greater, you may exile Ugin's Binding from your graveyard. When you do, you Cyclonic Rift. You return each non-land permanent you don't control to its owner's hand. And that is pretty legitimately powerful. I think this exact build is a little bit clunky and is going to need a rebuild later on, but I think it's good enough for us to take it for a spin for a match and see how it feels. And by the way, that's a Surgical Extraction chilling in the sideboard that you can't really see what it is. Okay, I have multiple Up the Beanstalks. I technically have green mana to cast them, but this is a little bit awkward. I think I'm just going to say no to this one. This one is not doing anything broken immediately, but I'm going to assume that Thoughtcast will get me to something broken. I can go 1, 2, 3 on turn 1, play Cranial Plating on turn 1, do a 1-mana Thoughtcast on turn 2. I'm going to assume that this is fine. I'm going to put back the 7-drop. Even though it is probably castable almost immediately. So we will just drop Plating. I guess I could Lotus Petal to Thoughtcast on turn 1. I still control 3 artifacts. Yeah, I think that's fine. Alright, I have an Up the Beanstalk on turn 2. Perfectly acceptable. We've got an opposing Urza Saga hand. Ooh, yeah. I think I want to play this one before Up the Beanstalk, although it's honestly pretty close. This just hopefully gets me to a relevant play next turn. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I will control 6 artifacts. Yeah, we can absolutely keep this on top now. And pass the turn. Everything that I'm playing in these rounds just feels so incredibly strong. That is Patchwork Automaton. I do not think that that is going to keep up with my start. I think Simulacrum Synthesizer is very likely to bury my opponent. There's a Frogmyr now. Alright, so we knew that was coming. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I control 6 artifacts. This is 1 mana. So I will go ahead and cast Up the Beanstalk first. Draw my card. Now I can go ahead and cast this for the 1 mana. Trigger Up the Beanstalk. Draw a card. Make an Urza Saga token. Yeah, no, this is fun. I'm enjoying the fuck out of this. And here I criticized this deck when I was doing my initial deck building. What a fool I was. We may run into potential problems versus a Vexing Bauble, though. Because this is when it enters. Aether Spellbomb. That can clear this Construct token out of the way in the short term, but I am just going to make more. That is another Patchwork Automaton. Sure. My opponent hasn't gotten any of like the Thought Monitor, Thoughtcast style cards that give them card advantage, which I think they need. I'll take 7 this turn. Keep my 4/4 around. I think that's fine. Alright, so I will play a new Simulacrum Synthesizer. We're just going to look for anything that is a 3-drop or bigger. That's a no. I think that's also a no right now. So bam, bam. Cranial Plating with black can be equipped at instant speed. So I think I just go ahead and pass the turn here. I am on the defensive. Alright, we have gotten the concession. Fantastic. Does not look like I am sideboarding here. Which is not surprising, right? Like, we are a deck that is attempting to just go bigger than other fair decks, so this is not unexpected. I could play Mystical Dispute, but I'm not playing any, air quotes, bad cards. I don't have, like, Chalices or Trinispheres or anything like that that just have to immediately come out. Maybe the sideboard does need some sort of Force of Vigor stuff to help answer some artifacts. Alright, turn 1 tapped land, turn 2 synthesizer, start doing things. I think that's fine. Opponent is on 5 cards currently. Let's see what he can do. He's unfortunately just passing the turn. So we're going to do this. I don't think I need to play out Lotus Petal for any reason. Alright, is this just a fair Urza Saga hand? Oh, no Patchwork Automaton or anything. Sure. So, yeah. Yeah. Is it Synthesizer or is it Kozilek's Unsealing first? I think it's Synthesizer. Yeah. Scry 2. It's just another one. Absolutely. I'll bottom the land. Top that. Do Ornithopter. Even with Prototype, it still requires the red, so I can't play this last one. I'll just be calling it a turn there. And we're going to hope to just bury our opponent with Simulacrum Synthesizer. And, like, I am going to have repeated draw 3s in my future as well. Alright, okay, my opponent is also on Simulacrum Synthesizer. That's not surprising. Unfortunately, like, mine is active first. I also have more artifact lands than my opponent, although my opponent can go and find something like a Lava Spur Boots or Shadow Spear to help out with that. I guess I could like Frogmyr here. They did not, though. Do wish this was just Frogmyr right now. Although, do I just control enough artifacts, actually? I might just straight up have 7 artifacts to do it for free. Absolutely not. Are you free? Cast? Oh, you are free. Oh my god. So none of these can attack yet. We're not going to send in the Ornithopter to be cheeky. I take this back about wanting this to be Frogmyr. Didn't realize how quickly my artifact count had ramped up. My opponent needs something like a Hurkyl's Recall very badly. Like, I'm just going from 0 power to 30 power in 1 turn cycle. Absolutely wild. Alright, it's another synthesizer for my opponent. That's fine. My constructs are bigger. Well, my opponent likes their cards. I guess that's good news. Okay. They are now Hellbent, though. Sure. My opponent is attacking in. I'll just chump with an Ornithopter. These don't trample or anything. I think I just want to be able to attack with all of my relevant creatures. Opponent did not move the Lava Spur Boots. So, 1 mana Thought Monitor. I'll draw 2. I don't think I have time to play Kozilek's Unsealing. Multiple Thought Monitors that I don't have the mana to cast, unfortunately. So I can go ahead and play Cranial Plating to grow my creatures. Send it, send it, send it. Opponent could block, well, has to block 2 of these, could have realistically 3 constructs that attack me next turn. I have enough blockers for that. That's fine. All right, so here's the obligatory 2 blocks. Opponent's at 7. I guess there could be a Shadow Spear coming. That could be a little awkward. I think I just outpower that, though. Like, my opponent can gain 11 life, and I don't think I care that much. That's a really good remaining card, though. That is not coming at the cost of equipping the Shadow Spear, so that's good for them. This game could get a little weird. Is this colored creatures for the second part? Or no, sorry, I'm thinking of the other one. The thing that can nuke your opponent's board is sounding pretty appealing right now, but I've forgotten the name of that card. There's a Mox Opal. So that can represent Shadow Spear equip, post-combat, move Shadow Spear. What was that? Oh, it's Sicarian Infiltrator. Sure. So my opponent might be trying to just sort of hold down the fort and make sure that they themselves do not die. Oh, Sojourner's Companion is the draw, giving my opponent 2 more constructs. That was a wild turn. I think I'm still probably okay. Which is a crazy thing to say, facing down that much power. I probably just trade a construct for a construct here. I double block. Now, notably, my opponent is still at 7. Shadow Spear is probably going to have things to say about that. So, do I Kozilek's Unsealing prior to Thought Monitor, or do I just Thought Monitor? I think I just Thought Monitor, because I can Thought Monitor at least twice, and I want to generate a very large number of creatures. This is about to get silly. Ugin's Binding. I'm bottlenecked on blue. I could maybe hit a blue land and a colorless card. Yeah, let's try. I think that that becomes my win condition for the match, is I just hold the ground until that happens. Okay, there's extra blue mana. So play the blue land, and I just hope to draw a big thing. Oh fuck, did I have a win by bouncing Thought Monitor and attacking with Thought? Fuck, I did. There's 1 flyer, so I could have one just bounce this, equip Cranial Plating, swing in for 7. Fuck. Okay, I missed a win. Hopefully that's fine. And I think I'm just going to pass the turn. Ron is bad says, I want to put a Rogue's Passage in this shit. Yeah. Yep, no, I get it. So we are devolving into mid-range hell. All right. What was just cast? Sorry, I'm juggling coordination with some content creators right now. Okay, it was a Sojourner's Companion that was cast. Okay. So my opponent has no cards in hand. So I think we are just good. Shadow Spear was not equipped. So play a land. Return Thought Monitor to hand. Cranial Plating. Equip to a Thought Monitor. And then that is lethal in the air. We have gotten the GGs. So I think my opponent could have equipped Shadow Spear on one of these constructs and attacked in once to stabilize their life total a bit more. Due to time constraints and trying to push out this content very quickly, I'm not going to record a conclusion today that has kind of all of my general thoughts. Instead, I'm going to say, come back tomorrow for more content that features all of these sweet Modern Horizons 3 cards. And if you liked any of the particular decks that you saw, I am probably going to do a full league with them as soon as the cards are available to the general public. So consider subscribing. There's going to be a lot more. And should you find that you need Modern Horizons cards, and you probably will, TOAmagic.com is the place to go. Use promo code ThrabenU to save a little bit on your order. And folks, I am so excited to be trying out these Modern Horizons cards in early access so that I can get this content out to you all ASAP. I'm very happy with the Magic Online Creator Program so far, and here's to looking forward to how Modern Horizons 3 cracks open the Legacy metagame. Have a great rest of the day. See ya.